Hello and welcome to the second portion of my presentation on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. In this presentation I'm going to focus on the second part of his theory where he added on 3 additional levels to his original hierarchy for a total of 8 levels. The objectives for this portion of the lesson include students will be able to define and describe key vocabulary related to Maslow's expanded hierarchy of needs. Students will be able to explain the 3 additional levels of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Students will apply Maslow's hierarchy of needs to real-life scenarios. Students will be able to explain self-actualization and its place in the hierarchy. Students will be able to assess their own personal level on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And students will brainstorm scenarios in their professional and personal lives that can be explained using Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The majority of these objectives will be achieved in your participation in the discussion and the activities following my presentation. There are 4 additional vocabulary words, including Maslow's expanded hierarchy of needs, cognitive needs, aesthetic needs, and transcendence needs. Again, these terms will be explained and expanded on in this portion of my presentation. Here is an updated visual of his expanded hierarchy of needs. Maslow's original 5-stage model was later expanded in 1970 to include cognitive, aesthetic, and transcendence needs. You'll see that cognitive and aesthetic come after esteem needs but before self-actualization, and transcendence needs is the new highest level on his pyramid. Now I'm going to go into further detail about the 3 additional stages and then show you how they all fit together. Cognitive needs include our desire for the pursuit of knowledge, our need to acquire meaning, and being able to explain the world around you through exploration and discovery. These cognitive needs can be met in a variety of ways, such as through traditional education, as well as through self-initiated learning and discovery. So for example, you may meet your cognitive needs through school, perhaps by reading books, through travel, where you're exposed to new cultures and languages, or maybe by pursuing intellectual hobbies or other experiments in your day-to-day life. Aesthetic needs, which come after cognitive needs, include an appreciation for beauty, searching for beauty, an appreciation for balance, searching for balance, an appreciation of form, and searching for form. And we can fulfill our aesthetic needs through nature, art, and music, as well as any other aesthetically pleasing activities. For example, for some people, they're able to fill their aesthetic needs by pursuing their idea of physical perfection of their body through exercise. Eventually, if we are able to pursue our aesthetic needs, it leads to feelings of intimacy and oneness with nature. Once we have this sense of beauty in our surrounding world, we're able to continue on to the next level of self-actualization. After self-actualization, we are able to pursue our need for transcendence, which is the highest, obviously most difficult to achieve level. Meeting your transcendence needs involves helping others to achieve self-actualization. I thought this level was similar to Erikson's final stage of psychosocial development, integrity versus despair, in that it involves an individual finding life fulfillment and giving back to others. The only way you're able to reach this level is if you yourself have reached self-actualization, and then you are able to reach out and later help others to achieve that same goal. Now, Maslow's hierarchy does have some limitations, and I wanted to go over what some of those criticisms were for your consideration when you are applying this theory throughout the discussion this week. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Maslow determined the characteristics of self-actualized individuals by evaluating the life stories and writings of individuals. He used a technique called biographical analysis. He looked at the biographies and writing of 18 people he believed were self-actualized, and he developed a list of qualities that this group shared. Of course, this was all highly subjective because he was the one that decided that they were in fact self-actualized. He was the one that developed the list of people, and of course it was highly influenced by his personal opinion and his worldview. In fact, the majority of his list was comprised of highly educated, usually white males, which some people have used to criticize his theory. Some of the men that he included on his list of 18 exemplar people included Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, Albert Einstein, Beethoven, and Gandhi. Of course, Gandhi and others such as Frederick Douglass were exceptions to the white male rule, but in general, his list was dominated by highly educated wealthy men. This is similar to some criticisms of Kohlberg's theory of moral development that says that he focused primarily on upper-class educated males. Going along with that point, women only comprised a small percentage of his sample. For example, he did include Eleanor Roosevelt and Mother Teresa on his list. So it's important to keep in mind that this theory was based, first of all, on a limited list of only 18 individuals, the majority of whom were highly educated men. Some additional limitations of his theory include the fact that it is actually difficult to test, scientifically speaking, Maslow's idea of self-actualization to determine what specifically causes an individual to pass to this level. It's difficult to quantify what exactly this means, and in turn it's difficult to measure what a person needs to do to reach this level. Another criticism concerns Maslow's assumption that one has to fulfill the lower needs in order to pass on to the higher levels, or before a person can achieve their potential in life. For example, there are many countries in the world where individuals live in dire poverty, for example, India. Yet, individuals are still able to achieve higher level needs, such as the social needs of love or the sense of belonging in a community, and they're able to do that even though their needs for shelter or food or water might not always be met. So that is one example of how his theory does not always play out nicely in real life. In addition, many creative people, including Rembrandt and Van Gogh, lived in poverty, so these individuals were not meeting their physiological needs, most of their most basic needs. However, many could argue that they achieved self-actualization as artists. They reached their highest potential as artists despite not fulfilling their most basic needs. So that is just one small example of how his theory doesn't always play out in the linear fashion he proposed. However, Maslow's theory can be applied to education in a lot of really relevant ways. Because Maslow's theory emphasizes a holistic approach to education and learning, it's really important because it takes into consideration the whole student. According to his theory, a student's basic physiological needs must be met before his or her cognitive needs can be met. As educators or counselors or as parents, I think we all understand that a child can't come to school hungry and tired and be expected to learn at the same level as a child who has all of their basic needs met. In addition, students have a need to feel safe in our classrooms, both physically and emotionally, in order to reach their potential. If, as teachers, we have a chaotic or dangerous environment in our classrooms or in our schools, it can be hard to expect students to reach their full potential. In fact, they're likely to not. Students need to feel emotionally and physically safe and accepted within the classroom to progress and reach their full potential. This can be cultivated by us as teachers or as counselors or even as parents so that students are able to reach their highest potential within this educational arena. Students also need to feel valued and respected within their classroom environment. Without this respect, it's going to be impossible for them to develop the sense of self-esteem that they need to progress to higher levels along Maslow's hierarchy. Teachers, counselors, school leaders, and also parents can all help a student feel supported in his or her education pursuits. It's a collective effort to ensure that all of the needs, from the physical to the emotional to the intellectual, are being fulfilled for our students. I invite you to check out this video to learn more about Maslow's expanded hierarchy of needs. It goes into great detail about his full theory with all 8 levels, and it has a lot of good visual explanations of how his theory works. Once you are done viewing all of our presentation, I invite you to answer some of these discussion questions or complete some of these activities and share your results with the class. Number 1. You can create a visual representation of Maslow's hierarchy of needs to share with the class. Post it on the discussion board for your classmates. Number 2, compare and contrast the original 5-level model of Maslow's hierarchy of needs with the updated model with 8 stages. Number 3, brainstorm one real-life example of each of the 8 levels of the expanded version of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Explain how your example illustrates each level. Number 4, I have included the link for a TED Talk. Please watch it. In this video, Chip sought to apply the upper levels of Maslow's hierarchy of needs to his work in the service industry. He explained the value of measuring happiness instead of focusing on production levels alone. Do you think Conley's alternative definition of success is viable in today's society? Watch this very interesting video and then share your thoughts on the discussion board. Number 5, in the TED Talk, Conley also describes the importance of creating a habitat of happiness. What are some ways you can or have fostered a habitat of happiness in your personal or professional lives? Please share on the discussion board. Next, I have a YouTube video, and the following video applies Maslow's hierarchy of needs to the popular Disney movie Up. Choose one example featured in the video and explain how it demonstrates one of the levels of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And then finally, how do you think Maslow's hierarchy of needs is applicable to your work as a teacher, counselor, or other type of professional? That concludes my portion of the presentation. I look forward to participating in your discussion this week. Here are the references I used for my portion of the lesson. And now I invite you to watch Melissa's portion and then join us on the discussion board. Thank you.